Welcome to my next Lost Season 6 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you weren't caught up to the point where I am every watching or watching Lost, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention, as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, if you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen the TV series Lost 3 other times. It's in my top 5 favorite TV shows of all time. I absolutely love it. So join me and the legendary Crazy Kaufman, who's actually watching Lost for the very first time, in the comments section to discuss this awesome, amazing show, but I don't want to see any spoilers past this particular episode review video. So with all that said, this will be Lost Season 6, Episode 8. The title of this episode is called Recon, and this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start outside Claire's hut. Sawyer wakes Jin and tells him that Claire and Locke said that they will be back by sunrise. Jin wants them to get out there, but Sawyer says he's with Locke. Jin tells him that it's not Locke, and Sawyer replies that he knows but doesn't care who he is as long as he can get them off the island. Jin says he won't leave without Sun, and Sawyer promises that if she's there, they will not leave without her. And then the man in black arrives with his group. There are 22 of them, including Saeed and Kate. And then we have our flash sideways with Sawyer. James Ford lies naked in bed with a woman named Ava. And Ava reminds him about an intimate appointment. He dresses and grabs a briefcase that falls open and spills out a great deal of bundled banknotes. He explains that the money is for an investment and that it won't take long. Ava points a gun at him, saying that he's a fool if he believes she'd fall for such a basic contract. And then James replies that she's a fool because the whole situation is a setup. The room is bugged and surrounded by cops. He explains that the cops just want her husband and encourages her to save herself by playing along and taking the briefcase to him. Ava disbelieves him and continues holding him at gunpoint, so James says the code word LaFleur, and then a police team led by Miles bursts into the room and arrests Ava. And then Miles tosses James his LAPD badge, and James addresses Miles as his partner. Back on the island, Claire packs a few belongings and goes to the cradle to tuck in the make-do skeleton doll of Aaron. Kate comes in and asks Claire what's in the cradle. Claire replies that it's all she had. The man in black calls everyone together as he understands they have questions and he will make himself available, but not now. He wants to take advantage of daylight and get moving. Cindy wants to know what happened to the people who stayed at the temple. The man in black pauses before saying that the black smoke killed them. Zach begins to cry, and the man in black goes over to him and his sister Emma to comfort them. Then Claire takes Kate's hand, and Kate reacts with uncertainty to this gesture. Sawyer and Kate talk about the whereabouts of their friends. Kate asks him if he is now with Locke, and Sawyer tells her that he's not with anybody. Back to our flash sideways. Detective James Ford is calling a list of men named Anthony Cooper. As he rings one, Miles arrives with a mug of coffee for him and overhears the name Anthony Cooper. And then James hangs up and attempts to hide his list. Miles inquires about the call, and James says it was an old buddy setting him up with Los Angeles Lakers tickets. Miles asks James if he met his friend in Palm Springs when he went there last weekend. James is momentarily puzzled by the mention of Palm Springs, but he soon recovers and talks about getting drunk and having a good time there. Miles reminds him that he has a blind date with a coworker of Miles' father that evening, and then James tries to back away from the date. Miles regards him suspiciously, and Miles says that he needn't tell lies and he can be truthful to him. And then James tells Miles, "Why the hell would I lie?" Back to the island, Locke says, or fake Locke, the man in black, says that there is a clearing ahead. Sawyer interrupts him and asks when they're getting off this rock. The man in black is annoyed at the interruption and suggests that they talk in private. Once aside, an angry man in black tells Sawyer that he wishes he hadn't interrupted him. Sawyer sarcastically apologizes and asks how Locke, I don't know what I messed up here, but something about how Locke knew to rescue people from that smoke thing. The man in black says he is the smoke thing. Sawyer is, surprised that all those people are killed and asks why. The Man in Black replies that he gave them the opportunity to leave peacefully, but they didn't take it. He explains that those people believed that they were protecting the island from him, whereas all he wants to do is leave. He says that it is either kill or be killed, and he doesn't want to be killed. The Man in Black tells Sawyer to take an outrigger to Hydra Island to do some recon. He tells Sawyer that he will find Azura Flight 316 over there, and that he has reason to believe that some of the Azura passengers mean to do them harm. Sawyer asks what to do if he runs into trouble, and the Man in Black tells him he's not worried because Sawyer is the best liar he ever met. He tells Sawyer that if he encounters anybody, he should gain their trust, find out whatever he can, and then return. When Sawyer asks about the purpose of the mission, the Man in Black says, we get on the plane, we fly off the island, and we never look back. Back to our flash sideways, James arrives at a bar and calls Miles to ask what his blind date looks like, and Miles explains that she's a redhead. And then James finds the woman and confirms her name is Charlotte, the love of Daniel Faraday's life. They dine, and Charlotte tells James that she's an archaeologist. She asks James why he decided to be a cop. He tries to make light of the question by making reference to the Steve McQueen movie Bullet. Charlotte replies that she wants the real reason, not the one he uses on all the other women. He smiles and says that at a certain point in his life, he realized that he could become either a cop or a criminal. He chose being a cop. And then later they end up in bed at Sawyer or James's place in this timeline. And then Charlotte asks to borrow a t-shirt. He directs her to one of the drawers as he goes to the kitchen for water. And then as Charlotte looks through the drawer, she finds a folder marked Sawyer. And then a photo of showing a couple with their son slips out. And Charlotte opens the folder to replace it. Inside the folder, she sees an old newspaper cutting about a man killing himself and his wife, and they were survived by their 9-year-old son. The photo is the one in the clipping, and that's the one that fell out. Then James comes in and realizes what she's found. And then he gets into a fit of rage, and Charlotte tries to explain that she didn't mean to do it, but he tells her to get out. Back on the island, or Hydra Island, Sawyer takes the outrigger to Hydra Island and walks to find the plane. He passes the cages where he and Kate were held prisoner and finds the dress that she wore at the time, and he reflects on their time there. Kate sits down to talk to a distant Saeed. She asks him if he believes Locke can get them off the island, and Saeed says yes. She asks if he is okay, and he says he is not. And then Claire suddenly attacks Kate from behind, trying to stab her in the throat. Kate screams at Saeed for help, but he looks on disinterestedly. And then the Man in Black appears and roughly throws Claire off Kate, saying that Kate did what she had to do by taking air when she couldn't find Claire. When agitated, Claire doesn't calm down. He slaps her full in the face and tells her what she just did is completely inappropriate. Kate is distraught, and when the Man in Black asks her if she's alright, she angrily yells that she is not alright. Back on Hydra Island, Sawyer finds the plane. Drag marks in the sand lead him to a pile of decaying bodies. Sawyer draws his gun when he hears and sees a woman running from him. He chases her and brings her down. Back to our flash sideways, Charlie Pace's brother Liam is asking the duty sergeant about Charlie's arrest. Liam approaches James, but James tells him that it's not his department. Miles emerges and abruptly tells James to come with him. Miles is furious because Sawyer outed Charlotte out of his place last night. Miles also says he has traced James' credit card transactions and discovered that James was in Australia, not Palm Springs. And Miles talks about trust, but James tells him that what he was doing in Australia is none of Miles' business. Miles says that he is not James' partner anymore and leaves. James stares at himself in a mirror on the wall, then punches his reflection, smashing the mirror. Back to Hydra Island, the woman calls herself Zoe and claims to be the only one left alive of the survivors from Azura Flight 316. She says she heard screaming while she was collecting wood, and when she came back to the campsite, the others were all dead. On the other island, Kate is sobbing apart from the others. The Man in Black joins her and apologizes to Kate for Claire's attack, saying that he has to take responsibility for Claire's behavior because he told Claire that the others had her baby. Kate asks why he would say that, and he tells her that Claire was devastated without Aaron, so he gave her something to hate in order to keep her going. He goes on to say that hearing the truth from Kate caused Claire to release all of her anger she had been holding on to for so long. Kate replies that his explanation is very insightful, considering that he's a dead man. He responds by promising that he will keep everyone alive, keep everyone, including Kate, safe. Kate asks where Sawyer went, and the man in black, offering his hand out to help her get up, smiling, tells her that he will show her, and she gets up without his help. Back on Hydra Island, Sawyer walks with Zoe to the outrigger as she has a lot of questions about the group he's with, including whether they have guns. They reach the outrigger, and Sawyer pulls his pistol on her. She whistles, and 4 men appear from the bushes with rifles, and Sawyer says, "Take me to your leader." The man in black takes Kate to the beach and points out Hydra Island as the place he sent Sawyer. Kate recognizes it as the island she and Sawyer were locked in cages on. The man in black says that he is not a dead man. He says he knows what Kate is feeling because his mother was crazy. He says that a long time ago, before he looked like the way he does now, he had a mother who was very disturbed, and as a result of that, he had some growing pains. Problems that he is still trying to work his way through, and that he could have avoided had things been different. Kate asks him why he told her this story, and the man in black replies because now Aaron has a crazy mother too. On Hydra Island, Sawyer is taken to the submarine at the Hydra Island dock. He notices armed pylons around the dock, similar to the sonar fence on the main island. And back to our flash sideways, James arrives at home and prepares a microwave frozen dinner. He sits down and watches an old episode of Little House on the Prairie. Laura tells her father that she would be devastated if anything ever happened to him and her mother. Her father tells her that if you live your life worrying about the future, life will be over before you know it. He tells her that people aren't really gone once they die, and that you hold on to their good memories until you see them again. And then James decides to leave and go to Charlotte's apartment to apologize with a sunflower and a 6-pack of beer. However, Charlotte tells him that he blew it and closes the door in his face. Zoe takes Sawyer inside the sub, and in a corridor, Sawyer notices a padlocked door. Zoe takes him to a room where Charles Whitmore introduces himself. Whitmore asks if Sawyer knows who he is, and Sawyer replies that he is the man who sent a freighter to the island with orders for the crew to kill them all. Whitmore denies murdering the people from the Azura flight. Sawyer is direct about John Locke sending him to the island and what Locke's purpose is. He says they both know that the man who sent him is not really John Locke. Sawyer offers Whitmore a deal. He will tell Locke, the man in black, that the coast is clear and that he didn't find anybody. Then he'll bring the man in black right to Whitmore's doorstep, and Whitmore can kill him. In exchange, the people with Sawyer don't get touched, and they get safe passage off the island, and Whitmore agrees to the deal. Claire finds Kate and makes an apparent heartfelt, teary apology to her, and then Kate remains very weary as Claire falls on her, sobbing and thanking her for taking care of Aaron, and Kate eventually returns the favor and hugs in return instead of just having her arms around her. Sawyer arrives back at the beach, and the man in black runs to join him. Sawyer tells him all the passengers are dead, and Locke, the man in black, asks him what happened, and Sawyer reveals everything about Whitmore and his crew: the submarine, the locked door, the pylons similar to those surrounding the Dharma barracks, and the deal he made with Whitmore. The man in black tells Sawyer that he appreciates his loyalty, and Sawyer replies, "A deal's a deal." Back to our flash sideways, James calls Miles over to his car. Miles reluctantly gets in, and James hands him the folder marked Sawyer. James explains that when he was 9 years old, his father was conned by a man named Sawyer. James' father was so upset that he shot James's mother before committing suicide, and the only lead is a man named Anthony Cooper. So he went to Australia to follow it. When he does find Cooper, he's going to kill him. Miles Miles asks him why he never told him this, and James tells him that he knew Miles would have tried to talk him out of it. Miles admits that this is true. The sound of a police siren approaches, and a blue sedan suddenly crashes into the driver's side of James' car. The driver jumps out and makes a dash for it as James and the pursuing squad car chase her. The fugitive runs down a alley, but James captures the fugitive and slams the fugitive against a gate. He realizes that he recognizes the fugitive. It's Kate. Son of a bitch! As he encountered her at LAX and passively helped in evading the law enforcement personally there. And then back to the island. Sawyer sits down next to Kate, and she asks him why he's running errands for the Man in Black. He claims he ain't running errands for nobody. He tells her about Whitmore and reveals his plan to let Whitmore and the Man in Black fight it out. He says that while the two men have their hands full, he and Kate will take advantage of the situation and get off the island. Kate points out that they can't fly the plane, and Sawyer says, "We ain't taking the plane, Freckles. We're taking the sub," and that's what ends this episode of Lost. So, okay episode. I'm going to give it an 8.2 out of 10. My character of the episode is going to be Sawyer, James Ford, and my secondary characters are going to be Kate and Miles. That scene with Claire hugging Kate, the tearful exchange there, was pretty, that was a lot there. So, but a good episode nonetheless. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Lost and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you Hulk smash the like button, share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are regarding this episode of Lost. What would you rate it, and who would you choose as characters of the episode? Remember, you'll be interacting with me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man, but don't spoil anything past this episode until the next Lost review video. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, help me get over 100k subs. Yes, I know I set my goals high. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDevTV.